Danny, Ripple, thank you for coming down. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, before we get into the whole dive into Ripple and what it is, where's it going, you think the economy is helping Ripple? I mean, we had a phenomenal jobs report. How does it impact a cryptocurrency like Ripple? Does it impact a cryptocurrency like Ripple?
That's a really great question. I think the economy in general has been looking towards new avenues and ways to invest, and certainly the tech sector has benefited from that. And I think as blockchain, as a sector on the vanguard of technology, I think people are trying to increasingly think about what is next for the internet, what is next for these online services, and is blockchain really going to be transformative towards them?
You think because the economy has been so strong, people are just looking for other ways or other places to put their money, and crypto has benefited from something like that?
Potentially, but I think people are also just curious about where this goes. Like, what's actually going to be the utility? What is going to be like the functional economic use case for this really exciting new technology, and how is it going to be applied?
30-second elevator pitch on Ripple.
Sure thing.
Go.
So Ripple is a blockchain company, and we're highly focused on solving one problem. And the reason we're focused on one problem is we think if you're going to be the best of the world at something, you've got to have a focus. And the focus is on cross-border payments. We want to make money move the way that information does on the internet today, so that you're able to move funds from the US over to Japan to Australia, versus the way it works today, where it takes 3 to 5 days and it's very slow and expensive and not very transparent.
Ripple versus Bitcoin, and there's so much debate out there, and I cannot tell you how many articles I read. One's better than the other. Your perspective.
Oh man, we're from this space. Things like Bitcoin are in our DNA. We definitely take inspiration from it, but there are some key differences. So, both are decentralized distributed ledger technologies. Both have a cap on the number of digital assets and the actual number of tokens in there. But the key difference are, I think, Ripple is very much focused on a transaction use case and being very scalable and fast around that use case as well. So using XRP, you can move transactions in about 2 to 5 seconds, and it's scalable until about 1,500 transactions per second.
Do you think one wins out over another? Is there a race to who's tops?
We're fundamental believers in interoperability. We support a protocol called Interledger, which we co-created, that's now governed within the web standards body, the W3C, and we really think there's going to be an internet of value where you're going to see multiple different blockchains and ledger systems interoperate with each other. So we think there will be some degree of specialization, and again, we're going to have XRP and Ripple as a company focus on payments and transactions.
We hear from a lot of people, obviously there's a lot of different cryptos floating around there. Do you believe there will be consolidation? What will be M&A opportunities? Maybe starting to see it a little bit, but is this where we're going?
That's a really interesting question. I don't think anyone knows what M&A looks like, right, in a crypto space. I think you will see collaboration, though. You are starting to see different blockchain projects interact with each other, and again, our use of Interledger is really focused on that as well.
I listen to you talk, and I read a lot of this stuff, and it seems bullish. How do you explain what's going on Ripple prices globally? Off the highs.
We fundamentally believe that over the long term, these digital assets are going to be transformative, that they are going to fundamentally re-architect the way that the internet works. And it's going to enable all kinds of new services. The question is, how do you get there? And Ripple as a company, again, we're very, very focused on solving one problem. There are real customers that problem solves a big thing for. And they're doing real things with the technology. They're actually moving money around the world. We have about 100 customers today, includes Western Union, MoneyGram, Bank of America, Standard Chartered, and Santander. So really trying to build up a global network where they're able to move money more effectively on behalf of their customers and really improve the user experience of what it's like to move money globally.
Why do you think some of those companies have chosen Ripple?
I think part of it is they want to improve their customer experience. They want some kind of strategic weapon to be able to compete with others. And if you're all relying on the same infrastructure that you have today, which a lot of times in financial services is around 40 or 50 years old, if you can rely on a new kind of infrastructure that enables new applications and new experiences, that's going to delight customers and you're going to win in the market.
Yeah, we recently talked to Tyson Foods CEO. He's not in Ripple, but he's using blockchain as a key to track chicken packages, which is interesting. We talked to Neil Kashkari, Minneapolis Fed member. He was a little bearish on the whole crypto space. How do you respond? In fact, actually, in another interview, he called it's for toy collectors. So how do you respond to something like that? What does the regulators get?
I think it is completely reasonable to be skeptical and to look at new technologies through the eyes of, hey, what is this really doing for me on a day-to-day level? And I think for something like blockchain, that's actually a really tough thing to do because these are protocols. These are pieces of infrastructure for a new kind of internet, and the way that they're actually going to improve customers' lives isn't totally obvious. What we're doing with the banks is purely on the back end.
Gotcha.
What the customers are going to see is a better experience, but they're never going to really see Ripple, directly in front of them in their mobile phones. So I think part of it is really making sure that you're able to see, what the utility of these different digital assets are, and how is that going to manifest itself in practical day-to-day use cases.
That raises a question. How does this become mainstream? My mom, I don't think is well, after she watches this video, she'll know about Ripple, but how does she ultimately get to know about it?
Sure, I think there are a couple of key challenges for this space. One is scalability, so making sure that these infrastructure, these blockchains can support mainstream use cases, lots and lots of transactions occurring all over the world. I think a second key challenge is making sure that you're customer focused, that you're really trying to solve a problem for a variety of customers, whether they're retail customers or business customers, and that it's not just cool technology, that there's a real functional thing that you're doing with it.
Is there a time when this becomes mainstream? How do we know when it's mainstream?
Oh man, that's a really great question. I don't think anyone has a crystal ball about when this is going to be totally global. But I will say this, this space is doing relatively well in terms of its traction. And I think you saw the internet play out over a number of decades. I think for Internet of Value and this new kind of infrastructure around blockchain, I think it's potentially going to be faster than that.
How can you invest in this space? If somebody doesn't want or doesn't understand a Ripple or a Bitcoin, how do they play this space? How should they think about it?
Sure. Again, I would focus on the use cases. Look at the different digital assets that are out there. There's a lot of writings and people who are thinking about, hey, these are the different applications of it. And this is a very early space. The assets are very volatile. I think definitely proceed with caution, but also be very scrupulous about thinking about, hey, where does this end up long term, and how is this going to improve the world?
Coming in, we follow NVIDIA here a lot. How big is this company in the crypto mining space? We're hearing about graphics shortages. Is that a real problem?
It's
graphics chip shortages.
I think it almost speaks to the efficacy of blockchain in maybe a slightly negative way, meaning that the proof of work algorithm within Bitcoin has incentivized miners to contribute so much computing power that it is eating up a ton of electricity. And I think that's a problem. So it's a proof point for how the technology is good at kind of aligning incentives of different actors around the world, but also contributing that much electricity and power into a system that's really not processing that many transactions compared to something like Visa, I think is an issue.
Regulation, is it coming?
Absolutely, and it's a good thing. I think the more that entrepreneurs, developers, customers who want to use the technology have better clarity around what it means to do that and what your responsibilities are, then you're going to see more and more people enter this space. I think when there isn't clarity, that's when you're seeing a lot of risk.
Regulation is good.
Absolutely. We spend a ton of time with regulators trying to educate them about what the technology does, how our customers are using it, so that they can put in kind of sound practices in place.
Interesting. Lastly, what has this ride been like for you? You've been on the ground floor of Ripple. Take me through it.
It's very fun. I mean, one thing I enjoy about this space is just the diversity of it. So you have banks that are entering the space, right? Very traditional financial institutions. You also have, developers who are thinking about this from a technical perspective. You also have a variety of different industries looking at this. So you mentioned the CEO of Tyson Foods. What I like about it is it's really bringing a lot of people together into one community to think about how to solve really, really core problems.
And you've been making some big hires too. I mean, now it seems like you're really growing out your team. I mean, what are you looking for in that talent to bring on a Ripple?
That's a great question. We just really want the smartest people to think about solving some of these problems with us. And it's definitely a challenge to make sure that you're always kind of attracting.
I mean, I didn't go to school. I don't know about cryptocurrency. I don't know if there's classes teaching this stuff.
Well, Bitcoin wasn't around when I was at university. They certainly didn't have a class there.
Sure. That's a good point. Well, good luck with everything. Thank you for coming on down.
Thank you very much. Yeah, appreciate you having me.